right, it is time to break down some food. So our lab requires bread, water, and either a couple of bowls, which might be messy, but fine, or a couple of plastic bags. We're going to take food, right? A piece of bread that you might eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, I don't know what you do. And we're going to break it down into smaller pieces so that our body can absorb the nutrients, or at least that's what we're going to represent in this lab. So I'm going to break this into two halves because we're going to do two different labs with a piece of bread. Rather than wasting two pieces of bread, I'm just going to fold this in half and break it in two. All right. Now, when I eat food, I start breaking it down in my mouth and I break it into smaller pieces. So with both pieces of bread, we're going to start simulating chewing or mechanically breaking down the bread by ripping it apart. Okay, ripping it into pieces. Once you've ripped it into, 8 to 10 pieces, we're going to set it aside and do the same with the other piece of bread. Okay, but because before this bread gets to our stomach, which is what the bags represent, it needs to be broken down a little bit. So I'm just breaking apart my bread. I'm chewing it, in theory, with my fingers before I swallow it into the stomach. Okay, so I have two piles, even piles of chewed up bread. And I have two bags, right? Each bag is going to represent the stomach. We're going to put some water in the stomach. Now, the water is going to represent chemicals that are inside our stomach to chemically break down food, right? Like hydrochloric acid. I have 2 cups of water here, and if you don't have a measuring cup, that's okay. I'm just going to put 1 cup of water in each. If you don't have a measuring cup, just try to put equal amounts of water into each bag. So I'm going to put about 1 cup of water in each bag, which represents the stomach. So there's bag number 1. I don't want it to spill, so I'm going to seal and set aside. And I'll do the same with bag or stomach number 2. Now, what this lab is testing is how mechanical digestion helps break down food. So far, our 2 labs are the same. I have 2 bags with water in them, 2 stomachs with chemicals, right? And if you didn't measure, this is about how much water you're going to want. Now, I'm going to add chewed up bread into both. Okay, so I'm going to open 1 bag at a time. And I'm going to put my bread inside. Remember, this is half a piece of bread that's been broken into smaller pieces. Okay, let it soak into those stomach juices and set it aside. I'm going to do the same with my second bag of water and my second handful of bread. Side note, you do not have to be outside to do this. I just didn't want to be loud in my kitchen. All right. Now, what we're going to do and start testing here as my dogs play in the background is how the presence of your stomach's mechanical digestion helps to break down food. So I'm going to set a timer for 60 seconds. Okay, 1 minute timer on my phone. I'm going to push start. I'm going to set 1 bag aside and do nothing with it. And the other, I'm going to slowly mechanically digest. Nothing intense, but I'm just kind of working it back and forth in my hands, breaking apart the bread mechanically or like a machine. I'm going to do this for 60 seconds. Meanwhile, the other bag is just sitting there. The bread is soaking up the stomach acid. We're going to compare and see which one is broken down more. Right, digesting the food. Our stomach has muscles in the lining that actually do churn our food. It's nothing aggressive, but little bits of movements to break down the food. We eat to get the nutrients out of our food, and so it has to be broken into little tiny pieces before that can happen. Okay, kind of moving it around, chewing it up. The dogs are playing. All right, that's 1 minute. Now let's see. This is the bread that has been chemically digested in the water and mechanically digested with my hands. And here's the one that is still in the chemicals in the water, but wasn't mushed at all with my hands. We're gonna see what the difference is. Do you notice? Which one broke the bread down more? At this point, if you want to try the lab yourself, you see what I did. All you need, some bread, some water. A bowl might be messy, but it would work just the same. Good luck!